and welcome back to the WARC Podcast. I'm Anna Hamill. Today we're looking at one of the fastest growing and arguably most misunderstood areas of modern marketing, and that's creator marketing. Spend on creators and influencers exceeded $32 billion in 2025, with 61% of marketers planning to increase their investment in influencer or creator marketing in 2026. It's a huge area of focus within the marketing and advertising industry right now, but valid questions remain about measurement and effectiveness. And many marketers still struggle with very practical questions. How much control should brands keep? How do you choose the right creators? And how do you know whether creator marketing is really building brands or just delivering the sugar rush of short-term views? So today we're going to examine some of the creator work which has really caught our eye here at WARC, the stuff that's really working. I'm joined by my colleague Catherine Driscoll. She's commissioning editor for EMEA at WARC and the editor behind our new report, What's Working in Creator Marketing. But before we speak to Catherine, let's hear from today's sponsor.
If you're listening to this podcast, you'll know that WARC is the home of leading effectiveness thinking. And now we're teaching you everything you need to know about the fundamentals of strategy. WARC Strategy Fundamentals is our new digital course for junior or entry-level strategists. You'll learn from award-winning case studies and hear directly from top strategists and WARC's own experts, giving you the latest industry insights alongside proven practical frameworks. Sharpen up your skills to excel in 2026 with WARC Strategy Fundamentals. Available now at warc.com/learning.
Catherine, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Anna. It's great to be here.
So before we get into the themes, what prompted this report now? Why is creator marketing at a moment where it really needs this kind of deep effectiveness lens on it?
Absolutely. Creator marketing has really moved from the margins to the mainstream. It's no longer something brands experiment with on the side. It's part of core brand strategy for many organisations. But with that growth, we're also seeing huge variation in outcomes. Some creator-led campaigns are delivering extraordinary business and brand impact, but others barely move the needle. So this conundrum was something we looked at in this report and also in more depth in the recent Marketers Toolkit as well. So thinking about this problem, the aim of the report wasn't to say this is the one right way to do creator marketing, but to look across global award-winning case studies and examine what kinds of strategic choices are associated with better outcomes.
What struck me reading the report is that it's not telling marketers exactly what to do, but it is showing how different strategies and creator campaigns can lead to, as you said, very different outcomes for different objectives. So let's get stuck in. Your first big theme is around creators as creative catalysts, but really this is about when creators enter the process. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's right. It's thinking about that balance between bringing in creators upstream as idea partners or more downstream as content producers and amplifiers. It used to be the case that brands brief creators once the campaign idea was already locked. Doing that is operationally easier, it's more controllable, and it fits with traditional production structures. But many of the strongest cases in the report show that creators that add most value is when they help shape the brand idea itself, not just executing it. And the report highlights freedom within guardrails is key to unlocking authenticity.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, freedom within guardrails. So do you have an example of a brand that really nailed this?
There's a fun example from back in 2021 that's still a super case study from the skincare brand EOS. They found a creator on TikTok named Carly Joy who posted a very raw and honest review of their shaving cream, referring to it as a blessing for her cooch. And instead of sanitizing the rather direct language or just boosting that post, EOS treated the creator insight as the creative idea, and they produced a limited edition product line using her exact phrasing. So bless your effing cooch definitely stood out on the shelf.
I bet it did. So creative marketing has obviously really taken off in the last few years, but I think this case from 2021, which feels like a long time ago, proves that the fundamentals of success really are timeless in creative marketing, even as a lot of the details are changing. I actually remember the buzz around that product, and it was quite a risky brand move for the reasons you just mentioned. What was the payoff?
Yeah, the impact was big. EOS sold 150,000 units in a week, and they saw 59% growth in quarterly revenue. So it shows that when you trust creators to shape the idea and validate their language rather than forcing your own, it really unlocked a level of authenticity that brands just can't manufacture by themselves.
Yeah, it's a really good case study, and it really proves the value of letting go of total control and creating a stronger brand as a result.
Yeah, there's lots more examples in the report. We saw a similar pattern with Vaseline Verified, where they turned creator hacks into their own creative system. And there's one from Coca-Cola in Thailand, where they let creators shape how the brand showed up in street food culture.
Yeah, we actually spoke to the team behind Vaseline Verified on the podcast just a few weeks ago, and that's an amazing campaign, creator-centered, but again, they've learned so much from that to take into other parts of their marketing as well. But of course, bringing creators in upstream, it is a riskier approach for brands.
That's true. I mean, bringing the creators in earlier, it means more uncertainty, having to make faster decisions during the creative process, and also having more trust in external partners. So, rather than saying, yes, it does work, but rather than saying everything needs to be creator-led, in the report we try to reframe the question as, what role do we actually need creators to play to solve this business problem? Are they there to inspire, to explain something, as a cultural translator or an amplifier?
Yeah, I think that's really important. I like that structure for thinking through what the actual role of creators is in a campaign. What is the exact specific goal and how do you find the right people to match that? And if you think about it, if the challenge is, for example, cultural relevance or creative freshness, keeping creators out of that idea development stage, it may actually be the bigger risk.
Absolutely.
The second theme is about creators as cultural amplifiers. So is this about scale?
It is about scale, but it's kind of a specific kind of scale, and one of the reasons you'd bring creators in the first place. It's about turning an idea into a movement, not just reaching people, but about sparking participation and changing behaviour. We're seeing that creator campaigns that invite remixing or speculation travel much further than those that are just broadcast to people.
That makes a lot of sense. So how would you frame that marketing decision?
I think the challenge to think about here is whether you're optimizing for message consistency or designing for participation and momentum. Many brands, they still approach creator marketing with very tightly scripted briefs to disseminate to new audiences via creators, and they're looking for that reach, and it feels safer from a brand governance point of view. But the campaigns that really achieve disproportionate cultural impact are usually those that invite people to reinterpret, remix, or speculate, or not just repeat.
And that's where participation really matters, right?
Yeah, there's some lovely examples in the report. One's Dove's response to the Bold Glamour filter, another famous campaign. The brand didn't just release a statement. It worked with creators to turn the brand point of view into a simple social action. And so people physically turn their backs on use of the filter. Or another sort of classic example from back in 2019 is Elf's Eyes, Lips, Face challenge, where the format itself was designed to be copied and adapted by millions of users in the end to drive awareness of the brand. It was a really conscious decision to do that. And Elf continues to really lead the charge in creator space years later.
Yeah, they learned a lot from that campaign and continue to do some really amazing work in the creator space. So the Super Bowl is coming up, and this kind of user engagement is becoming a key tactic there too, one of the biggest advertising moments of the year. And we are seeing more brands using this big game, big moment as a tentpole to advertise in clever ways that build on top of the in-game ad or work around the event itself.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be really interesting to see what the standout campaigns are this year. I mean, from 2024, CeraVe is the obvious example. They wanted to win the Super Bowl conversation, which they essentially did, but they didn't just buy a 30-second spot and hope for the best. They fueled momentum before the game by using creators.
Right, and that was the Michael Cera conspiracy.
Exactly, yeah. They ignited a fake conspiracy that the actor Michael Cera was the actual founder of CeraVe, and they seeded this with dermatologists, gossip channels, meme creators, and built a huge rumour mill. By the time the Super Bowl ad aired, they generated 32 billion earned impressions.
32 billion earned impressions is pretty incredible, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's an enormous amount of coverage. And commercially it worked too. It delivered CeraVe's highest single-week moisturiser sales, and it also boosted overall sales by 25%.
Yeah, pretty amazing campaign. So I guess the takeaway here is that creators can accelerate ideas into culture in a way that maybe traditional paid media can't do alone in the world that we live in these days. So you're inviting people to really kind of play with the brand and interact with it, not just watch it. But obviously, as we've mentioned, participation also means losing some control over exactly how the brand shows up.
It does. Designing for participation really means accepting less uniform messaging, more creative variability, and outcomes that, are honestly harder to predict in advance. So again, it's a trade-off. In this report, we're not saying that close brand control is wrong. Sometimes it's needed, but, it helps marketers to, if they ask, is this a campaign where consistency matters most, or is it where conversation momentum matter more? Because if you want culture to carry your idea, you have to leave room for culture to interpret it.
So I'd like to focus a little bit on creator marketing effectiveness, because this has been a huge topic in recent months on WARC as well. It was a chapter in our Marketers Toolkit. It's a really interesting data analysis by Creative X found that 45% of creator spend on Meta is wasted due to poor execution. Only 14% of creator ads were watched beyond the first 3 seconds. That's a pretty alarming stat. How can marketers avoid being part of that statistic?
Yeah, it's a big one. I mean, this actually works well with the third theme in the report of as creators as authentic voices and, thinking about how to do that well. So it really speaks to how brands choose creators in the first place. And it's where that effectiveness evidence becomes really important. Because, on the surface, choosing creators with the biggest audiences feels efficient. But what we consistently see is that the best performing cases is that credibility and fit matter far more than follower counts.
Yep, that's incredibly important. And I would point our listeners to some recent IPA research from late in 2025 as well, which is really powerful on this point. So that research showed that influencer and creator marketing can be one of the strongest long-term brand building channels, and in many cases outperforming TV in terms of long-term multiplier effects. So creators absolutely can build brands, not just drive that short-term engagement. But the same research also shows that outcomes, as you mentioned earlier, are highly polarized. So creator marketing can work extremely well or not really make much of an impact at all. So what makes the difference?
Yeah, so as I said, the credibility of that connection between creator, message and brand is key. If they're selected purely for reach, but there's no natural link to the product, the category or the brand role, you might get views, but you don't build memory or persuasion. And where we see strong results is when the creators bring something the brand itself can't, whether that's lived experience, specialist authority, or trust within a specific community.
Right, so which collaborations made the cut in the report for this theme?
One was the Skoda Reddit edit, such a fun campaign. They partnered, with the Reddit community that already loved the Skoda Octavia car, and they didn't try and pose a message. They just elevated the voices of real fans who were already there. And then that campaign led to retail orders beating forecasts by 255%.
Yeah, that's a really great one, that Skoda campaign. We actually had a video episode on the podcast about this campaign last October as well, which listeners can find on WARC's YouTube channel. Really recommend getting into that one. Skoda was obviously connecting with mega fans that then became a successful broader campaign. What about when reach is the specific goal of a creator campaign? How does that work?
There's a fun, maybe slightly silly campaign from Heineken and APAC that won a lot of PR awards in the report. And Heineken Silver wanted to communicate smoothness, but instead of using the usual language about beer or a typical male demographic of creators, they created an actual beauty cream infused with the same barley and hops and worked with beauty and skincare creators who already owned that language of texture and softness. And the product benefit became more tangible and more believable, but also the initiative bridged different beauty, lifestyle and beer fan audiences. So it kind of generated PR coverage in lots of different areas and built engagement with the creator content across different types of creators, not just that sort of beer fans.
It really shows that alignment doesn't always mean staying in your exact vertical or category. It's about aligning on the concept.
Yeah, I mean, this was a stunt example, but it did work, and we're seeing this with brands partnering with community insiders, not just category celebrities, when they're really trying to reach new or skeptical audiences.
But prioritizing fit over reach likely means a slower initial scale up, right?
It can, and that's the trade-off. Optimizing for reach may deliver faster visibility, while optimizing for credibility in long-term partnerships may build more slowly. But what you're building is trust, meaning, and that important mental availability over time.
And also that's where that IPA evidence that we were talking about, it really gives marketers confidence because it shows that when creative partnerships are well matched and sustained, they can contribute to long-term brand growth, not just short-term spikes.
That's right. So, the strategic question here for marketers is, are we using creators for immediate attention, which is, a valid goal, or to build durable brand associations over time? It's really a brand strategy decision.
So if there's one thing that marketers should take from this report, what would you say that is?
I'd say it's creator marketing isn't a single tactic, and it's certainly not just a media tactic. It's a set of strategic choices, throughout your brand planning. So it's about where creators enter the process, how much control brands keep, what kind of growth they're trying to drive. It's important because as investment in creator marketing grows, the cost of getting those decisions wrong also grows. For example, focusing on authenticity doesn't mean unbranded.
Yeah, and it's worth flagging here as well the recent WARC Podcast episode we did in early December 2025 with Becky Owen, who is CMO of creator agency Billion Dollar Boy for Marketers Toolkit. And she emphasised that creative content still needs to work as advertising. So you still need to brief for where the asset will live and how it will perform and all of the things that you normally would.
Absolutely, and I love Becky's insights. And also our new Future of Media report includes some powerful analysis of how creator marketing is evolving. We get into it more in that report, but of course measurement is also key. Most creator marketing works indirectly, so relying on clicks or last touch attribution will really undervalue creators and risks cutting activity that's actually working for long-term brand building.
Catherine, thank you so much. That was incredibly interesting and useful.
Anna, thank you for having me.
If you'd like to explore the full case studies and evidence behind these themes, you can find the What's Working in Creator Marketing report live now on WARC.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the WARC Podcast.